there is an intent and action, and we use a intent to start a new activity, to start a new service. Now, how does this intent comes in the picture? Now, intent can be used to start an activity, It can be used to start a service, and it can be used to broadcast an action. So intent is used in all the three cases. Now, let us see what is the difference between all of these three. You can use an intent to start an activity, start a service, or broadcast an action. Here what I do is that I say create a intent, INTE equals to new intent, and then we say start activity, and I pass that intent object. What happens here? What happens in this case? In this case, what is happening is that I'm using an intent, and it can be explicit intent, implicit intent, but in this case, end result is an activity is started. Okay? So end result is let us call it like this. So the output is an activity started. Good. In this case, output is a service started. Here again you will create similar intent, MI equals to new intent, and then you will say start service MI. This will start a service, and the output is a service is started. So intent can be used to start an activity, to start a service, or to broadcast an action. Here what happens is that you say intent MI equals to new intent, and then you say send broadcast MI, and what happens, what is the output? Output will be a broadcast receiver starts. A broadcast receiver starts. Okay? So see the difference. A intent can be used for starting activity, for starting service, for broadcasting an action, and it depends on what you want to do. There is one more thing which is important to understand here, and that important thing is, let me just explain you here. This could be an explicit intent, or it could be implicit. Both is possible. Here same, it could be explicit or implicit intent. Here it is always implicit. It is never an explicit intent. It is always an implicit intent. Okay. So that is what we are trying to explain about the intent. Now, once you get an idea that what is the different type of intent and what is broadcast intent, let us come back to broadcast receiver. So, what is broadcast receiver? And before we get into the broadcast receiver, let us look into this in our application Traveler Assistant. Where is this guy fitting in? What we are planning to do is that so far, in fact, we have done this one, this one, this one, and this one is ready. We are already done with that. Today we are going to do this one. And slowly over the project we'll complete all of them. So time zone change broadcast receiver and expense alert broadcast receiver. Now what it means is that we'll create a two receiver. One is called time zone change and other is called expense alert. What it means is that every time somebody changes a time zone in your phone, a time zone change broadcast receiver will happen, or when somebody adds an expense in the expense item, a expense alert broadcast receiver will happen. Now, before we get into the code, let us go a little further down inside the broadcast receiver world. What we are going to do is that we are going to create basic structure of two broadcast receiver, and each broadcast receiver need to be again declared in manifest.xml file. And as I have said before, that every time you will have an activity, new service, new broadcast receiver, you need to declare in the manifest.xml file. So don't forget to do that. And then we'll add a intent action inside both the receiver to make sure that they register for right set of action. And then we'll add the code inside expense item activity to send a broadcast intent action. And then we'll test it, how the time zone broadcast action also takes place. Now, let us understand a little bit more about broadcast receiver in concept before I get inside the developing the code or sample. A broadcast receiver is a component that responds to system-wide broadcast actions. That responds to system-wide broadcast announcement. So what it means is that a broadcast receiver responds to system-wide broadcast announcement. So everybody, when they send the broadcast, it goes across all the components in your mobile phone. But do not confuse it that broadcast is about broadcasting the whole company, whole world, or your network or anything. This broadcast is only for sending a message inside your mobile phone to various components. So it is a broadcast within your phone to pass a message to different component of your phone. Now, this can start from two places. Many broadcasts originate from the system. A broadcast announcing, let me just show you this in the next page, I think, where it is easier to understand. Here. Just few minutes back, I was trying to explain that a broadcast can be sent or broadcast can be started by any activity or service. But that is one type of broadcast sender, that is user application. So when you have a user application, this can be a activity or service, and they can start a broadcast. But they are not the only one who can start a broadcast. Android platform or the Android core system itself number of times keeps sending broadcast, and all these broadcasts will always have, basically what they mean is that all of them will always be sending a broadcast of intent action. Now they can also send some broadcast, and they can also send some broadcast. Now these kind of a broadcast are called system level broadcast, system level broadcast, and these are called user level broadcast. Now what are the some of the example of system level broadcast? What happens is that you can always say that like it will say battery low and it will send a broadcast, or it can say that network disconnected and it will broadcast something, or it can say somebody changed the time zone of your phone and it will broadcast something, time zone changed. Now why do you care about all of this? The system level broadcast through an intent with some action name, the idea is that when system will do a broadcast, you can develop your own broadcast receiver, so that when battery is low, you might want to display a much nicer image or pop-up than the default one is there in your phone. If time zone has changed, you might want to just trigger some other action based on the time zone has changed, so that now time zone has changed, let the calendar, few things in the calendar also change, or delete or remove. So the point is that any action or activity which is happening in the Android at a system level, all of them triggers a lot of broadcast action from the system level. And if you want to know, let us assume that somebody will ask, okay, you are telling that Android system does the lot of action broadcast. What are the various kinds of a broadcast that the Android system does? For that, you have to go to your Android help page, and then there you will find something interesting. So let us see that where we can find intents and intent filter. Okay. Now, if you come into the intent class, here these are the broadcast actions at a system level, what the Android phone does it. So these are the standard broadcast actions for this intent class. So inside intent, there are non-broadcasting action, and then there are broadcasting action. These kind of action in the intent, what it means is that it is used for particular activity or service. They are not for broadcast receiver. So these are for activity or service. Okay. Now, and these are for broadcast receiver. So the target component itself is different. And what are the different kind of a system level broadcast action? Time tick, time has changed, time zone changed, package changed, UID removed, battery changed, phone has been shut down. So all of these are the standard broadcast action which are there. Now these are the category, and these are the extra information which you can pass when you are sending some broadcast. So along with the broadcast, you can send some data as well. So that is what it does. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to use one of the broadcasts which says time zone change. So this is the system level broadcast, which will see that how the broadcast happened by the system. So what it means is that all of these are system level broadcast action. These are broadcast actions used by system for broadcast.